Both of Colorado's U.S. senators made national headlines this week, citing points of view and votes regarding the federal shutdown. Senator Cory Gardner was one of 6 Republicans to vote for a Democratic bill that would have opened the government without funding for a wall. Meanwhile, Senator Michael Bennet fanned the rumors of a presidential run as he made news with a passionate speech criticizing Senator Ted Cruz and the president. And as we tape this at 12:20 or so, right here in the heart of Five Points, Colorado, at least we walked into reports of a compromise being announced by President Trump. We had yet to see the actual announcement, so we're going to assume that an announcement was made that the shutdown will be over for 3 weeks while border security negotiations happen. If this was disproved at 1:30, and I look like a fool right now, would not be the first time, but that's what we're assuming at this stage of the game. Michael, so we might have a compromise on the table that opens the government for 3 weeks, but votes where 6 Republicans crossed the line to vote with Democrats, and LaGuardia Airport being closed because of air traffic controller issues. What do you think made this potential compromise that we assume is announced happen?
Yeah, I think it's all those things, TSA, federal employees going their second paycheck without getting paid, I think brought people to the table more. But, does this just push off 3 more weeks and then we have the same exact fight again? I think it's too early to know that. I did something that you should never do and followed this story yesterday over social media. It was really interesting because, Cory Gardner came out and said that he was going to support both bills. And I was looking at tweets from the left, and they're like, this is totally about politics. And then Senator Bennett gives this speech, and they say he has nothing to do with him running for president. I mean, everybody's kind of throwing accusations all over in these kind of circumstances. I think Cory Gardner's been pretty consistent on the fact that he doesn't want a shutdown for this. He wants border security, doesn't want a shutdown. Senator Bennett, is obviously gave a passionate speech on the floor, and it got a lot of attention. I think we just need to find that long-term solution. Is how do we have border security and keep the government functioning for more than 3 weeks at a time?
Natasha, what do you think this might be about? Is it opening up so that we can have a State of the Union speech and that President Trump can have a venue to talk to Americans? Is it finally realizing that Senate Republicans were splintering? Was it all of it? Was it none of it? Are we into more of the same in 3 weeks? What do you think?
I think as you're doing that, my head's just spinning. I mean, who knows on any of those counts? From a Colorado perspective, I'm looking at who won the day yesterday. Was it Cory Gardner starting to maybe sketch out a plan for what his reelection campaign might look like, of finding a middle ground, finding some compromise points. But I'm going to have to give it to Bennett on this. I mean, he definitely garnered more attention. One thing that was interesting for me, and I was watching it, later on social media, when he talked about the floods, I actually stopped for a moment. I paused it and came back to the video later. What I think was important there is that politics, we talk about it being personal. Politics is personal, of course. But he took a macro topic that seems so vague. Federal shutdown, what does this mean? We talk about it in DC terms instead of thinking about individuals. And when he mentioned the floods, for me, as someone who's been in the state for a while, who has reported on topics like this, it reminded me of the individuals affected by those floods. And that's why I stopped for a moment. So what I think Bennett did well there was to really personalize how these big political decisions do have a local and personal topic. Or it becomes a local and personal topic. And he did that well, and then he did it again when he talked about eminent domain and how that would play out in Colorado as well. So I'm going to give the win for the day to Bennett.
John, let's go there. Let's piggyback on what Natasha was saying. Do you who had the better this week, Senator Michael Bennet or Senator Cory Gardner?
I think Bennett for sure. I mean, as we were talking before the show went on the air, I don't think I've ever seen Michael Bennet that animated, and the things that he was saying were very semi-presidential if you take a look at him. This to me, this is not a partial shutdown. This is more this is like a soft right-wing coup that the president is trying to pull off. I think what he is eventually going to do is bring back the people, but he won't bring back 800,000. He'll bring back maybe 650 and say, I told you I was going to come to Washington and thin the swamp and clean out Washington, and all of a sudden we'll be down an X number of people, and that's how he plans to take advantage of the situation that he caused himself. I mean, I'm shutting this down. Blame me. Well, everybody is blaming him. If you look at the numbers of his popularity now, people that voted for him, they're definitely not voting for him in 2020.
Patty, what do you think between Gardner and Bennett? Both of them made national headlines and probably the most exciting footage from C-SPAN we've seen in a long time from Senator Bennett. What did you make of it?
Well, I think we have to give Gardner the benefit of the doubt on this. I mean, he is going to have a tough re-election bid, but maybe he just did what he did because it's the right thing to do. Get the government working again. Forget the border wall for now. Worry about security, but get the government back together. So good for him on his votes yesterday. We don't know what's happening today, but we'll find out. I'm guessing he is sticking to his position. Bennett it was like an episode. It was like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And I think he would have been willing to go on and filibuster as long as Jimmy Stewart did. He even kind of had that aw shucks thing, accusing Cruz of crocodile tears. It was really a standout performance that we haven't seen the likes of by Bennett before.